All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order.
Let's see, Mr. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Castillo? Here. Ms. Gill?
Here.
And Ms. Russell? Here. Thank you.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I would seek a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? All right, we'll move on to our spotlight on Team FCCPS, Mary Ellen Henderson Middle School's Humanities course. Dr. Noonan.
Thank you, Chair Gill. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. It's my pleasure this evening to welcome the humanities team, including Alice, who is with us tonight. Alice Kelly has brought us some joy. So this evening, we would like to highlight as part of our Spotlight on Learning Farrell Kelly and Beth Jenkins and the great work of Valerie Hardy in their work around developing a humanities curriculum that they have started working on this year. So with that, I'll let the tape roll.
We first started talking about putting together a humanities class at Mary Ellen Henderson probably 4 or 5 years ago under the previous principal. There's a lot of narrative and empathy to be learned in the narratives of history, right? Like there's also stuff to be found in literature. Some of the joy we can get and the empathy we can learn by reading about, fictional characters or characters in other settings. I'd been having conversations with Valerie Hardy about it, and then last year she said, I think we should do this.
I have always had the perception that the combination of various different core curricula is important because it helps students see what they're learning from a much more holistic, thematic, conceptual position. And it's always more interesting to learn about these topics when there are more connections than fewer connections. There isn't really any place where one leaves off and the other starts. Students who are passionate about history get to do history all the time because they're reading and the writing that they're doing is related to that. And students who are passionate about English and might not be as passionate about history are always reading and writing, and they're always encountering interesting ideas.
The course description was interesting in what it was. It was a mix between history and like current events and English, of course, and my parents were the ones who said, it sounds like a college class, and I was like, well, that sounds cool.
It has been so powerful to watch students make those connections seamlessly as they're talking about literature concepts, as they're talking about the literature content in their writing, and then shift immediately to historical concepts.
When we originally put it out there, we had a blend of kids and enough for like one section. So rather than making one honors and one sort of grade level, we ended up sort of combining the two, which has been a really, really lucky synergy.
Having students who come from all different learning styles and all different learning backgrounds makes for a richer environment. The students see their peers able to access information and create things from their areas of strength.
I think that the bigger class offers a lot of new opportunities for us to be able to talk to each other and bounce ideas off of each other and really think as a whole and be like a collective mind all working towards something.
Having 2 teachers is good because instead of having one teacher teaching you everything, if we have 2 teachers, it's like more information because different teachers know different things.
Having a co-teacher, another professional in the room who's able to provide supports for students who actually have special needs is very powerful because we're allowing students who are from that subpopulation to access a unique learning opportunity.
We talk a lot about scaffolding in education and trying to build the supports that kids need, but there's no better scaffold than a peer who cares.
Perhaps to the podium in case the board has some questions. But this is a team that just sort of made this, as you saw in the video tonight, sort of happen. And one of the things that I think we can be really proud of in the City of Falls Church schools is when we put our minds to try something new. Through good leadership of this team, we've been able to make it happen. So with that, Madam Chair, I will turn it back to you in case the board has questions.
Yes, open up to the board for questions and comments. Oh, Mr. Castillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this looks really cool. I have two questions. First of all, was that a picture of Matt Damon there with some weird caption, and it looks something like Milton Firewood or something?
Yes, Matt Damon was a gift from a former student who's actually now a senior at Mason, who was doing some work with mask making, and he left Matt behind at the end of his 8th grade year. And so Matt has become sort of a classroom mascot, or Mattcot. And so every day the kids come in and give him a different name, a different personality. He's always Matt something, but he varies from day to day, just exactly what kind of Matt he is.
All right, but I was interested to see if you liked history, you could do history. If you liked English, you could do English. So how's that work?
Well, I think in a humanities curriculum, you're always doing both because everything's interrelated, and we wrap the arts and history and English and writing and theater all together to have a more thematic look. So they don't ever separate. You're reading and writing and writing and reading and experiencing and researching and learning. And the nice thing about the humanities wrap is that it all has kind of a contextual purpose in whatever the time period is that you're talking about, or the period in history. So yeah, it's really quite different because it isn't English, and it has the world history curriculum, but it isn't just world history.
It looked really interesting. I mean, I was sort of thinking about Montessori, sort of where you can sort of pursue the particular angle of the activity that appealed to the particular student, which I thought, wow, that's really neat.
Well,
Yeah.
and if I may, it's also students who are maybe a little less comfortable in one zone. They have the chance to see what their peers can do, and that is encouraging, right? To sort of see that goalpost, and it's not a goalpost set by a teacher; it's a goalpost set by a friend. That's one of the really cool things that we've done this year. I think is we've been able to build, a community of learners. We meet every day for a full block, right? So we're with each other a lot. While that might seem worrisome, it actually it's worked out really, really well. With the history curriculum, we've worked to choose literary texts that complement the history curriculum without just repeating it, right? So that are thematically linked, so that kids can make the connections between the history and their own lives, which helps those kids who are maybe reluctant history learners understand the relevance and again, build connections. My big thing always is empathy, right? And so helping kids make those connections and build those empathetic relationships with the people of history by using literature as a bridge can be really fruitful.
Awesome. So well done, and I'm sure we'll see a lot more of this play out over the years. So thank you.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So much a question as an observation is it sounds exactly like a class I took in my junior year of high school that I still remember to this day as a transformative experience. So I'm curious, more than anything, how have the students come and talk to you, or have they given you feedback in how what it's meant to them so far? I mean, that class to me was a literature and history co-taught, 11th grade. We opened up the sliding door between the two rooms and that kind of thing. It was fantastic. But I'm curious, what have the students told you about how this works for them?
Well, I think the interesting thing with children this age is not so much what they're saying about it, because they say a lot of very positive things, but it's for me, it's more of watching them in the environment. They're engaged, they're interested, they're having conversations. It's certainly a lively place, and they're not the small robots sitting all at their desks. But it's a place with so much conversation. And we just finished a project where each student had to select a god or a personality that was similar to the Greek gods. I think we had a philosopher and a couple of muses who jumped in. And they got so into the project to the point where they knew within the classroom the role that each other student was playing so that they could, in the middle of their presentation, kind of point out, oh, yeah, you know, Zeus over there, you know about Zeus. So it's I think you measure it from the engagement that you watch as much as from what they say. I'd be curious to know what they say at home, but it's, I think it's a pretty well received.
Well, as you all wrap up your questions, you know, one of the things that strikes me is, to your questions a little bit, is we don't want to give away all the secrets. In some ways, we're sort of sneaking in a little bit of content that students might be wrestling with as they enter the door. So being able to kind of think about it in different ways is really, I think, a powerful way of working with kids. And I'm sort of struck by the conversation that you and the questions that you were asking as I think about what does a rigorous curriculum look like, and how do we afford all of our students access to rigor. And so through the integrated program that they have, one of the things that we see is high engagement, adaptability, or being adaptive. So as Mr. Kelly talked about, being able to scaffold and be able to look at entry-level questions and then build on those entry-level questions and build blocks to learning makes it adaptive, thinking about how the work is relevant, so building empathy and thinking about what does this mean in my personal life, being relational, and then finally integrated are sort of the hallmark components, I think, of what a really strong, rigorous program looks like. And they also, by the way, are analogous to all of those traits that we look for in IB learners. So when we think about this program and what it does for rigor and does to support our IB for everybody, this program really does it in a powerful way. So I just want to publicly say thanks to these guys for their incredible work.
Thanks to y'all for letting us do it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I love that all students can participate. It's not just an honors class. And you want to talk about public education really giving a private school feel for education, for the amount of rigor and challenging work that you're giving students. I think this is, it just like blows my mind, some of the things that come out of our school system. And I'm just so excited for all of our students to learn from you. So thank you so much. All right, moving on. Section 3.01, our public comments and requests. In accordance with School Board Bylaw 2.30, the time for each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Additional written statements may be submitted to the clerk for dissemination to board members and for the record. Ms. Goodell, do we have any comments tonight?
No comments came in, but we did receive about 5 additional comments on the school calendar today.
Okay, thank you. All right, next is our closed meeting. Oh. Yes, 4.01. Would someone please read us into closed?
I will do.
Pursuant to the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, I move that the board convene a closed meeting for the following purpose: to discuss or consider the identified subject matter, personnel under Section 2.2-3711A1, in particular, staff appointments, staff reassignments, staff resignations, staff retirements, staff performance, staff change in position, dependent care leave, long-term medical leave, child care leave requests and leave of absence, and advisory committee appointments.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Webb. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed or abstained? Great. This should be very brief. Please reconvene us to open meeting.
Move to reconvene.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Second. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Someone please certify the closed meeting.
Madam Chair, where the Falls Church City School Board was convened a closed meeting on this day pursuant to an affirmative roll call vote and in accordance with provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3711B of the Code of Virginia requires a certification for the school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law, now therefore be it resolved that the Falls Church City School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which the certification applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Mr. Castillo? Aye. Ms. Gill?
Aye.